right, now we'll get into some of the individual stories of the 12 children of Israel. I was thinking about the best way to do this, but I think the best way to do this actually would just begin with Joseph himself and go through his story. So Joseph's story, him as an individual anyways, begins Genesis chapter 37. And rather than read through this, like all of it, which more or less goes all the way from chapter 37 to the end of the book at chapter 50, I'll give you an abbreviated version. But if you want more, you could read through the Bible yourself, or maybe you'll be subjected to the torture of Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat, as I was in many car rides as a kid with my parents. I think I'm actively suppressing most of that musical. Yeah, I threatened the confirmation class with that once. It's like, if you don't get this, we're going to be watching the Joseph and the Technicolor Dreamcoat. So Joseph, at the ripe old age of 17, he's getting dreams. And as you often find in the Old Testament, and also in the New Testament, really, but as you often find, God is speaking through dreams. And he's speaking to Joseph. And Joseph has a couple different dreams. And some of them are, well, there's different swaths of grain, and the swaths of grain that would be representing his brother are kneeling down to his swath of grain. And then there's also the idea of him as a star in heaven, and the 11 other stars, they bow down to his star, as well as the sun and moon. The sun and moon are representing his parents. But then we go, well, shouldn't there be 3 moons or 4 moons? Because in the birth of Benjamin, Rachel died. Rachel died in childbirth. So Rachel is deceased, she can bear no more children. Oh, and I also forgot to mention the meaning of Benjamin's name. Benjamin's name literally means son of my right hand. Ben is son, and Yom would be more, Yom or Yamin is more my right hand. So he's one who is looking to power, or one who Jacob would defer to, which is also kind of an insult to the other brothers, being the youngest. But Joseph, as the second youngest, theoretically he could stand up for his younger brother Benjamin and make sure that he's all right. But that's not exactly what happens, because Joseph is saying that he has authority over everybody, including his parents. And which of the mothers is the moon? Hard to say. So keep in mind the other brothers, like the only one who's younger is Benjamin, and Benjamin would be younger than Joseph by a few years, and most likely he would be like, well, yeah, I'm the younger brother, I have to do what my older brother says. Ugh. But for the other guys, some of them would be closer to Joseph than not, but we do actually see a definite birth order. So these guys are being born in time, so you could have a full, let's say, 10 or 11 years in between Joseph and Reuben. Could also be more. Because maybe it's not every single year that one of the wives is getting pregnant. Could also be even less. Because if one of the wives, let's say, if Leah is pregnant, maybe Rachel isn't trying to wait around. Something like that. But we have here a number of years in between Joseph and Reuben, as well as Simeon, Levi, Judah, and the rest. So, if your teenage brother comes up to you as an adult and says, you're going to work for me, you're going to serve me in all aspects, older brother, what do you think is going to happen? Yeah, exactly. This is brothers. Like, you have Dinah, of course, as the name sister. But yeah, with brothers, it's like, Now, yeah, so since Joseph is having multiple dreams and he's talking about this, the brothers do decide to gang up on him. Like the final straw, though, was when their father, who loved Joseph best because he was the oldest son of his most beloved wife, he gave Joseph a gift of a robe. And if you're listening to Joseph and the Color Dreamcoat, they're going to say, well, a whole bunch of colors. We actually don't know. In fact, the exact term is a little bit iffy. So what this robe could be is the collection of all the different pieces of material that they had left over for making other clothes. So it's actually multicolored in the sense that it's coming from multiple rows. So Joseph gets an extra garment rather than his brothers having extra things themselves. So if your younger brother gets a present and you don't, how do you feel? Yeah. And this is also back in the time when people would have at most 2 sets of clothing. Mm-hmm. So if Joseph is given an entirely new robe, wow, that in today's equivalent, that would be like getting somebody a completely new wardrobe. Yeah. So the brothers are ticked off at Joseph. Joseph is almost egging them on because he's saying that they're going to serve him. But it's decided amongst the brothers they're going to teach him a lesson. So they throw him in a cistern. Well, I should probably ask, what is a cistern?
Oh, it's water.
Yep, but this is the ancient world, so it's not like you're just going to drip in clean water. So this is going to have a whole bunch of muck and dirt at the bottom. This is also the era before swimming lessons, but they've thrown Joseph in there, so presumably he's not drowning, but he would be stuck in whatever muck's there at the bottom. So he's pretty helpless at this point in time. And they might be going like, okay, well, just cool off in there here, like, my lord. But they don't really stop there. They're getting so frustrated that they're actually thinking about killing Joseph. There's another 11 brothers. They're thinking, well, Dad's going to be all right if one of us is gone. But that doesn't really work, because if you know anything from looking at a parent's love, like they love all the children. They might only have as much attention as they can spare for whatever child is in front of them at the time, and especially if you have 12 altogether, but they still love their children. So the brothers start arguing about killing Joseph. Presumably Benjamin's in on this too. We don't really have much of a word on that. But considering how Joseph treats Benjamin later on, then maybe Benjamin wasn't really voicing that discontent. Now the only explicit defector from that conversation was Reuben, because he's number 1 in birth order all over the place. So what is the oldest brother supposed to do with regard to his siblings?
Keep them in line.
Well, keep them in line, but also keep them alive.
Protect them, yeah.
Yeah, he's supposed to protect them. So he's making sure that Joseph's okay, because he argues with the brothers and says, no, we can't kill him, we can't kill him, we can't kill him, just leave him there later on. Just leave him there, he'll learn his lesson. And then Reuben goes away and he's thinking to himself that he'll come back and rescue Joseph. So he's acting the part of the older brother. Okay. But that's when there are some Ishmaelite traders. Ishmael. These are relatives. Abraham's firstborn son, Ishmael, as opposed to Isaac, who's these guys' grandfather. Ishmaelites are coming through, and Judah has this idea, well, why should we just kill Joseph when we can actually make some money out of this? We'll sell him into slavery, so we'll get some money, and Joseph will be gone. So the other brothers go, yeah, that's a good plan. So they bring Joseph out of the cistern, they sell him into slavery, And then when Reuben comes back at night, he finds Joseph's gone, and he is somewhat beside himself. But the brothers put together a story, because they also took Joseph's robe from him. They cooked together a story. They slaughter a goat. They pour the blood on the robe and say, well, an animal got to Joseph, killed him. So Father, this is what's happened. So he's gone.
Is Reuben in on this?
Yeah, he's in on this one. Yes.
Okay, interesting. Okay.
Yes. Because also, if something happens to the youngest brother, like who's going to pay for it?
Right.
So we'll leave that for now. So if you're following in the scriptures, we're going to skip over chapter 38. We're going to go to 39. We'll come back to 38 when we get to Judah. Okay. So Joseph, since he's one of the children of Israel, he still has God's blessing with him. So when he goes into slavery, it's not that he's going into the worst slavery imaginable. Because we could think that like hard labor, that you're in a quarry or something, you have to break rocks. No, that's not what Joseph is doing. Because Joseph is somebody who is, well, blessed by God, but also fairly capable, because he is. So we can just kind of discern from the scripture text that, yeah, he's also fairly intelligent. We don't know how intelligent, but he's intelligent. So he actually gets sold into the household of somebody named Potiphar, an Egyptian named Potiphar. And Joseph rises through the ranks. He's showing his capabilities, and he actually becomes overseer of the household. He's still a slave, but he's overseer of the household. Because what people don't necessarily understand is that slavery had many different degrees in the ancient world. So you could be like the worst of all slaves in terms of status, and people would kill you and not bat an eye. Or you could actually be worth something pretty significant, and you would still be a slave in terms of your class, because you would be owned by another person. You would need to buy your freedom in order to get out of it. But Joseph was at this top tier part of the slavery. Now, unfortunately for him, there's sinners in the household, as you would find everywhere. So Potiphar's wife thinks, well, this is a nice-looking young man. I'm going to bed with him. And Joseph, he goes, no, how dare I take anything from my master? Because my master is the one who has given me all these blessed things in the household. How could I possibly abuse the position that he has given to me? So Joseph, he escapes by the skin of his teeth, or more accurately, by the hem of his outer garb. So he leaves the house, but his garment is left behind. So Potiphar's wife just starts screaming and goes like, see, he tried to assault me, but he left this behind. Therefore, he's at fault. Don't believe anything that he says. So Potiphar, he comes back, he hears the story, so he throws Joseph in prison. Now, as a slave, Joseph could actually have been put to death, but Potiphar is deciding, well, no, I'd rather, because of what Joseph has done, I'll just put him into prison. But he cannot possibly let Joseph stay in the household. But God is still there to bless Joseph, so Joseph is working his way up in the prison and actually being one of the servants of the guards. Because prisons in those days, like you wouldn't really have state-operated prisons like we would do today. Like you'd be short-handed, so if some of the prisoners are acting well, and they'd be like, well, if you're going to give me extra food or better food, or more lenience in how you're going to govern me, then yeah, I'll do what you want me to do. So Joseph rises through the ranks, and one day there's a couple of people who get thrown in. Both of them in service to Pharaoh. One a baker, one is a cupbearer. So for a cupbearer would be one who is basically in charge of the royal cup. He's in the inner court. Depending on the time period, he would also be tasting this for poison. So Pharaoh would hold this guy in very high regard. So if he is in the prison, something went wrong. Likewise with the baker in prison, something went wrong. They find out Joseph can interpret dreams, and they go like, well, we need our dreams interpreted. The baker has a dream that all his bread was eaten up by birds. The cupbearer, he has a dream that he crushed wine with his own hands, and he served to Pharaoh, and Pharaoh was pleased. So Joseph was able to interpret those dreams. And he was saying the baker, he would be executed, the cupbearer would be restored. And he pled with the cupbearer, remember me when you're restored so that you can get me out of here. Now, the baker was executed and the cupbearer was restored, but he didn't really think about Joseph for a while. Right, unfortunately. But over time, Pharaoh actually has a dream. And he's pretty concerned about it. And he goes to the people in his court, and they can't really decipher it satisfactorily. And then that's when the cupbearer remembers, oh, well, there was a guy in prison who helped me out. Let's get him. So they go to the prison, get Joseph out, and Joseph interprets the dream. And basically the whole dream is that there are, well, not the whole dream, but part of the dream is there are 7 fat cows that come out of the River Nile, and they're all happy in that. But then 7 very lean and scraggly cows come out of the Nile, and then they eat the fat ones. So Joseph is interpreting the dream and saying, well, what this means is you're going to have 7 years of plenty. So you're going to want for nothing. All Egypt's going to be prosperous. But at the end of those 7 years, you're going to have 7 years of famine. So if you don't plan for this, you're going to die, is basically the message. And Pharaoh is very happy that Joseph is able to interpret the dream. And since God is on Joseph's side, because Joseph is saying that I'm being revealed this by my God, Pharaoh is going like, okay, well, we need you, we need your God, so manage everything for me. Manage Egypt. You're going to be second to me. Listen to Joseph. He's going to tell you what to grow, when to grow, and where to put it. Where to store it. So he's second in command. And Joseph is elevated, and of course, you have the years of plenty and things are going well, but then you get to the years of famine. All right. So this is when there's a famine in like the whole Middle East. So then you have Joseph's brothers who are still suffering from this. So his household is not doing well. And we don't know exactly how soon they decide that they need to get to Egypt. But they hear that there is food in Egypt. Therefore, if there's no food where they're at, maybe they squandered everything after 7 years of plenty. They thought, well, it would go on forever. So maybe it's the first year, maybe it's a couple of years in, but they decide we need to go to Egypt to get some of this food. So they bring gold and silver with them, or maybe it's just silver. I think, now that I think about it, the word silver is used, but the word silver is used just as a generic term for money. Yeah. Anyway, so the brothers come down, minus Benjamin, because Joseph is concerned about Joseph being dead. So he's like, I don't want my other child by my favorite wife to be missing. He stays here. You other 10, you can go. And I guess they're thinking like, gee, thanks, Dad. And nice to know how much you value us.
The expendable.
In any case, well, they go down to Egypt, and they're asking for this, and word gets to Joseph, and Joseph, since he's managing the grain supply, he's hearing that there are these 10 Hebrews who are claiming all to be brothers who are coming from the land of Canaan to buy grain, and he's like, oh. So he goes, sees that it's his brothers, and he decides, how do I know you're not spies? So he knows exactly who they are. But Joseph is, well, you can imagine maybe he's going to have a little bit of fun with his brothers because they sold him into slavery after all. But he's also devising another plot because he still wants to see his brother Benjamin. Benjamin's not there. Okay. You had these 10 guys who are saying, let's kill him. Well, with the exception of Reuben, but Reuben wasn't helping as much. But you have these 10 guys saying, let's kill him. And then you have Benjamin, who's Joseph's full brother. Like all these guys are his half-brother. Okay. So Joseph is also devising a plot to get his brother down here. So he goes, well, how do I know you're not spies? Because you gave me a story that your 12 brothers, one is dead, one is at home, so you have the remaining 10 here, and your father is still living. And he also goes away to cry for a little while because he's just so happy his father is still alive. But like, how do I know this isn't a plot? And they go, well, we can bring our brother back down. That's how we can show you it's not a lie. And he goes, good, because he just wanted to see his brother again. So the 10 go out, and partway out, they check their sacks, like the sacks that they had filled with food, and they find their money in those sacks, and they go, oh crud, they're going to kill us for stealing. We better not go back. Instead of, like trying to correct a mistake, Joseph actually ordered the money to be with his brothers because they're still family. Anyways, so they go back and they tell Jacob what happened. And they said, well, we need to bring Benjamin back down. And Jacob says no. So they decide, okay, well, maybe we can just wait this out. But they go through all the food again and they realize we're going to starve to death. Okay, we need to go back. We need to go back. And this time we're going to have to bring Benjamin with us. So they go back. And this is going to be a good long time after they left. So that's kind of suspicious. And what Joseph does is he actually welcomes his brothers in, and he's like, oh, well, no, don't forget the time difference. Just because you were telling the truth to me, you have this 11th living brother. Yeah, sure, I'll let you join me for dinner. So they eat around his table. Now, at this point, you might be going, well, they've seen Joseph a number of different times. They're also eating with him. They're hearing him. Don't they actually recognize who this is? Okay, so do you expect somebody that you sell off into slavery to be second in command of all of the world's superpower?
Not for a second.
No! Also, at this time, the Hebrew people, like they would be rocking the beards, long hair, but Egyptians, the style for centuries was completely shaved. Like if you had a beard, it was not your own hair. Like everything was shaved, your eyebrows were shaved. So Joseph would have everything shaved.
They wouldn't recognize him.
Yeah, everything shaved. You'd have makeup on because that was also stylish for the nobles. And then you would also be, if he's higher up, then he would also be treating his skin with different oils and other things. So he would not be recognizable to his brothers.
It was also 15 or so years later as well, right?
Yeah, hard to put a real number on it, but yeah, it's at the very least a decade later, most likely much longer than that.
Right.
So how would they know? And it's noted there that Benjamin is eating a lot, and Joseph gave him a double portion out of the whole meal. That will come up slightly later on. Okay. Now, Joseph still wants his younger brother to stay behind. He wants to just hang out with his brother. That's what he wants to do. He doesn't trust any of the others. They want him to kill him. So he's like, I want to send all of them back, but I want to keep my younger brother. So he still has this new plot. So as the 11 start going back, the guard come after them. And they tell them, Pharaoh's cup has been stolen. So this is like a personal, second in command's Joseph's cup. But it is a possession of one of the higher ups, so this is definitely executable offense. That you're stealing from one of the highest people in the land, as in terms of honor, as well as the value of this object, because it's gold. So the brothers are confident, well, we didn't do that. And you check all the sacks, and then you get to Benjamin's sack, and then you find the cup put there because Joseph told somebody to put it there. Ah, yay! So then Benjamin gets arrested and dragged before Joseph. And the 10 brothers, at this point in time, they could have just gone. But they have realized, no, this isn't right. So they go back. They plead to have Benjamin released for punishment to befall. Judah asked for punishment to befall him, and I'll get to that when we get to Joseph's story. Sorry, Judah's story. And then that's when Joseph realizes that his brothers have actually reformed. They're repenting of allowing one brother to die for their sake. They're willing even to put themselves at risk for their brother. So he recognizes that they have repented, and he is very much willing to give them forgiveness. So he just starts bawling his eyes out and weeping and just telling them, like, oh, Joseph, I'm the one that you sold into slavery. I'm so glad you're here. And then they're like, oh, no. So that brings up more issues with them, which will be dealt with a little bit later on. But Joseph reveals who he is, says that he has as much as they need, and thus invites everybody to come into Egypt rather than face famine in the land of Canaan. So the brothers go back, they bring down their entire families. I'm forgetting the exact number of how many people there were. I want to say it's around 84 or so, because the brothers have already started having children. But you bring down the whole family, including Jacob, including Jacob. Leah dies on the way, unfortunately, so they take some time to bury her. But they come in, and Joseph preps his brothers for speaking to Pharaoh, and he tells them, okay, listen, you have to tell Pharaoh that you're shepherds. You are. So tell him you're shepherds, so that he'll send you to this land, to the land of Goshen, so that you can feed your flocks and you'll be very prosperous. Because Joseph also has been managing all the lands of Egypt for quite some time. He knows where he wants his family to be. So they do this. They have that land there. Eventually, Jacob does die, and they decide to bury him back home. But once they come back, or start coming back, that's when they get pretty antsy, because they're like, maybe Joseph just kept us alive for the sake of our father. Now that our father's dead, I don't know if there's any reason why he's not going to kill us. So in Genesis chapter 50, beginning in verse 18, Joseph's brothers then came and threw themselves down before him. We are your slaves, they said. But Joseph said to them, don't be afraid. Am I in the place of God? You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good to accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives. So then don't be afraid. I will provide for you and for your children. And he reassured them and spoke kindly to them. So Joseph, in speaking with God, communing with God, being in faith towards God, he recognized that yes, there was great evil that befell him, and this evil lasted for years. But he realized that the purpose for it was to actually save the brothers. So the brothers actually meant for their brother to die, that they might have enjoyment in this life. But they had to realize that their brother, who was as good as dead, must live for them to actually have true blessing in this world. Oh, hey, that sounds like a Jesus parallel. What do you know? That the stone that they have rejected has become a cornerstone for their entire lives. Oh, what do you know? But yes, Joseph is recognizing that he should not repay evil for evil, but should repay good for evil. And since God has greatly blessed him and also meant for this blessing to go to his brothers, there is no reason for Jacob to stand in God's way.